Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, esteemed guests, colleagues, friends, and family. My name is Max Cohen. It is 5 o'clock p.m. EST on the dot. You're listening to the Mocha Live podcast on a Wednesday afternoon. Joining me for the very first time this week is the decorated artist. I don't know, flashy graphics guy. This is Anubis 3100. We're happy to have him
Yeah,
here. What's up,
that's
Anubis? How we
me.
doing?
It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me. I am Anubis 3100. I am an Egyptian artist in the space who sort of deals with the exploration, modernization, and evolution of Egyptian identity and mythos. But we're not actually here to talk about that today. We're here to talk about the space and everything that's been going on and all the memes. You
Yeah,
know,
we got memes on the mind. We got shitcoins on the mind.
yes,
Um,
sir.
Anubis is a really good person to talk about this because Anubis has been in the space for an absolute minute now, and in addition to having like a really wonderful like fine art practice with all of the like, incredible context that he just introduced himself with, which is an understatement for what it's worth. Like he's also, I don't know, quite a like comedic mind. So
Thank
Anubis,
you.
the question on everyone's mind is like, have you ever made a shitcoin?
Have I ever made a shitcoin? No, but I've been a shitcoiner. So if that's the term, I'll pick up for myself since
Say
since
more.
since SHIB actually. My introduction, or let's say I dipped my toe into the pond of shitcoins. Um, what is it?
Mhm.
Um, Around right before SHIB started to mega pump in like 2021, I'm pretty sure, 2022. That
Yeah, it
was,
was
and then
Dogecoin for me, which I think
oh,
preceded Shiv by just a little bit.
is
That was
Dogecoin
back.
still good? Is it still considered a shitcoin?
I don't know, man, but it was at least a meme coin. I think that there's an interesting discussion about the difference between those two things. But the reason we wanted to talk about this today is because for the first time in what seems like a very long time, there's like candles all over my Twitter timeline, not just from finance people and like crypto traders, but like artists and collectors, and they're talking about the narratives behind meme coins and shit coins. And Pepe is the one that's been, I think, kind of in the public conscious for a couple weeks, and now Anubis was saying just before the call, there's Turbo, which is the AI generated one.
Mhm.
And I think that this has been a pretty quiet time for crypto art, kind of across the board. Maybe you have seen or seeing the same thing, but it seems like every time I have one of these podcasts, crypto art
Mhm.
sales have slowed down, and creativity has kind of been chilled a little bit more and more. And now there's this kind of insane regurgitation of
Mhm.
old like interest and fascination and just kind of like Twitter timeline, I don't know, activity. You seeing the same thing?
Yeah, it's we've been noticing the sort of like slow downturn when it comes to let's not say major art sales because those are still happening and those continue throughout a
Yeah.
bear market, but within the greater sort of artist population, if you will, sales have sort of significantly slowed down. And um with something like Pepe, it seems like just the heavy mimetics of it and the ability for a lot of people, including artists who have had this financial downturn for like say about a half a year to a year, it was
Mhm.
just strong enough to like get everyone to bite, including myself. And it's just
Yeah.
now the dynamics of how the shitcoin will play out is completely different than the pull of the shitcoin itself. You can
Sure.
just see, it's like it's the space is already heavy on Pepe and Apu memes, which is just like essentially a frog derivative of
Mhm.
Pepe in itself. And so it's like the perfect storm, if you will, of just like people lusting for money, greedy. They're starting to get really greedy for money.
Yeah.
I'll even say that within myself, which like artists are just starting to like clod anything, right? Just to like gain some form of liquidity. And then Pepe comes out and just mimetics take over.
Yeah, no, I totally feel that. And I think that like also it feels kind of natural to me in a sense. I mean, not just because this has been a quiet time, and then obviously
Mhm.
if there's a lack of like capital coming into the space. You're going to have people who are like still here and seeking that capital. But and I've been talking to a lot of collectors recently, and they frequently seem to bring up this kind of natural flow, or like natural flow of
Mhm.
like these capital generating events. And the one that's always pointed to is the Bored Ape Yacht Club mint, right? Where there were suddenly so many people who were so crypto rich, and then that flowed kind of down the river into other PFPs, which turned into, for some people, a lot more money, and they wanted to turn that
Mhm.
money not just into more money, but into clout. So they were chasing one of ones by big name artists, and that would then flow down the river into smaller artists, and
Mhm.
you know, uh, curations by those big artists and editions and things. Um, so it seems like this is the kind of thing that happens, right? That there is a kind of flow that we keep falling into, especially in these like quote unquote like dark moments. What?
No, it's just I like the description dark moments.
Well, yeah, I mean, like you can kind of notice it, right? It's like the doom and gloom on the
Mhm.
timeline. I remember people talk, obviously we have 2020 hindsight, but we talk about like the end of the bull market in terms of the picture I keep seeing come up is like when Pepsi and Budweiser and like McDonald's were all like using like wag me
Mhm.
tweets, like talking to each other. And it's like, okay, when you saw that sentiment, it probably had some kind of a portentous effect,
Oh, yeah.
portentous um,
That was like that was the
intimation.
sign.
Yeah,
You know, that
that was the
was I
sign.
remember people were like, "That's the sign the bear market is starting," because it was just like the when brands start to adopt the cult within, quotation marks, the cultural lingo, and then, the
Mhm.
sister of Mark Zuckerberg releases a "Wag Me" song, you
Yeah,
realize it's sort of gone parabolic in, like, some weird way, and
you know,
it
and,
needs to,
and
like, come down.
we don't have Colborn here this week, but so I don't want to like pretend to be any kind of like financial expert.
Mhm,
I have zero idea what's going on, financially or where this is going to go, but it does seem like the antithesis of that kind of like overwhelming excitement is not despair, but is silence, right? And that's, I feel like, what we've been dealing with for a couple of weeks now is this kind of like encroaching silence, right? People just either working in the background or
mhm.
just kind of too doom and gloomy to actually interact in the kind of Twitter sphere, and the kind of it seems like post NFT NYC there was just like an emotional like dampening. So, anyways, here we are, right? Shitcoin season. We have Pepe, we have Turbo, we have memes, we have like people actually interested in memes, we have memes being made off of memes, we have shitcoins being made off of shitcoins.
Mhm.
Anubis, tell me about what you're doing with these shitcoins right now. Are you investing in them? Are you
I
enjoying them? Are you just playing around with them? Are you just like following along from afar like I am?
when it comes to my philosophy in shitcoins, if personally is if I can catch them early enough, I'll literally just dump $40 into them, close to that amount, because from my experience from SHIB in itself and how
Yeah.
that just like went insanely parabolic, $40 in the space can turn into a lot of money if you're like willed enough, and
Mhm.
um and you're just able to like have self control and certain stuff. And so when I
Who has self
saw
control?
so essentially, like, when a coin starts to pump and like you start to gain lumps of like sums of money that you've never seen before, like I with myself saw with Shib,
Mhm.
the the metrics of your get out start to go up as the
Yeah,
charts to
yeah.
go up, and so like at one point 10K, which was extremely unreasonable for a crypto meme coin, becomes the bar, and
Yeah.
you're like, "It needs to go higher for me to sell it." And so you need that self-control of, like, when it hits a certain thing for you,
Mhm.
you need to be able to, like, get out when you've told yourself and not to get
Yeah,
caught into the greed, you
and
know?
we can extrapolate that out to, I think, all aspects of
Yeah.
crypto investment, right? That the story I always tell the people in my life as a cautionary tale is, of course, I love Solana, and I was investing in like all these Solana NFTs back when Solana was like jumping up to $250 a token, and there I
Mhm,
was sitting on like an actual like six-figure like asset bundle for the first time in my life, and of course I was very far away from it, but like in the very distant mirror, like in the future, I saw like the
mhm,
glint of $1 million, right? I never
mhm.
got anywhere close to it, but I saw it, right, for just a brief second, like illuminated in the sun. And that was enough to keep me holding on to everything until, you know,
Yep, yep, that's what happens, and it's every single story, like, I think the important thing when that even happens is, like, I remember watching YouTube videos trying to be like,
Mhm.
"I'm gonna be that, crypto bro. I'm gonna understand some financial language," and somebody was saying it's, the sunken cost fallacy or whatever, where it's
Yeah.
a lot of things in the spaces when stuff just starts to go down, people start to hold on to them when in reality is like if stuff is going down, like if the ship is sinking, you abandon the ship. You're not the captain of this thing, And so, and it's a good
Well,
learning.
we all have main character syndrome.
Yeah, and the best thing for me is like better for us to happen now at our young age than to say somebody who's invested $500,000 into like.
I don't know, your young age, maybe. I'm pushing 30. I'm fucking feeling
Oh,
old.
that's still pretty young, It's like in comparison to like some of the people we've seen in their 50s and their 60s, some people who've just been dealing with this and have like, I'm a VC, I used to be a trader and now I've moved on to crypto.
Mhm.
We don't have like this insane sums of money that like mean a lot to us that once lost are just like detrimental to our mentality. We're just like
Well,
messing
maybe
around,
not detrimental to our lifestyle, but certainly detrimental to our mentality.
You still
And,
think about that?
well, and one of the things we're going to see, of course, right, in every one of these, hyper aware, hyper hair trigger, like capital generating
Mhm,
events, there's going to be huge winners, but also huge losers. And these
of
things are
course.
all going to like come downstream into crypto art in really interesting ways. And like, that's one of the reasons I wanted to talk to you today is I want to see if we can get out ahead of what's going to happen in crypto art, at the downstream of this, right? Because a lot of money is going to flow in from people who don't ever invest in crypto art, and some
Mhm.
of it will end up in the hands either of artists or collectors or just folks who are interacting with the crypto art world. Um, and some people will get wrecked, and that's just kind of the nature of the thing. I'm hoping that you can give me some insight though, because I'm curious, having never really been involved in the creation of a meme coin and really not investing in them either. Can you like explain how these things kind of come together? Like, do they start in like group chats? Is there like a coordinate? I know that some of them are like these influencer
Mhm.
generated pump and dumps where it's like these carefully coordinated like influencer campaigns, but I imagine some of them are more like organically created, whether that's Pepe or Turbo. I'm wondering your take on that.
It's the origins of like something like Pepe.
Mhm,
They're somewhat unknown actually. Funny enough, some people were speculating and joking around about who the creator of Pepe is. We've
mhm.
seen the mixture of both. Some coins are like essentially, let's say, theorized in like a Telegram group chat by some crypto bros that just want to like pump it and dump it, and
Yeah,
then some like Doge and like it seems like Pepe are just like evolving out of a meme and trying to utilize that, it really depends on the person you're dealing with because the tech is no longer like the same tech it was from 10 years ago, and the
yeah.
accessibility of the tech is no longer the same. So it's easy for
Mhm.
me and you within a day to launch a shitcoin, right? And within we already saw that because somebody was like, "I
With the
paid
AI.
$20." Yeah, with the Turbo, right?
Yeah,
He
with
paid
Turbo, yeah.
$20, she had ChatGPT, and it was like, "Here is the I guess, how it's gonna function or something." Now, it probably didn't code it for him, but you can find the templates for coins anywhere.
It's interesting. I saw a tweet earlier that was talking about how Pepe doesn't even have the best narrative of these meme coins, and there was like individual quote unquote like expertise underneath that, just people opinionating, and it reminded me of the last season of Game of Thrones where everybody became an expert on story arcs and like narrative developments
Mhm.
all of a sudden, and now everyone again in this arena is like a super expert on like the development of narratives and such. Um, I mean, how does your like perspective on this whole kind
Well
of like meme? Oh yeah, what were we gonna say?
well, I was actually curious, like, what do you elaborate more if you could on, like, it doesn't have the best origin what do you mean by that, sort of? It doesn't have the best
I
narrative.
personally have no idea, but I think that there is a general like I think everybody wants to boil these things down to a science, right? Because if it's
Mhm.
scientific, it's predictable. I think one thing we've learned from both meme development and also from, all of these crypto cycles is that like public sentiment is impossible to mimic and impossible to predict and is when it's stimulated, it gets suddenly
Mhm.
stimulated like really intensely. So I think you have people who are trying to understand what's happening in this moment with meme coins in terms of like the development of the narrative, right? Like you can see the development of the
Mhm,
Pepe narrative, right? Because of that symbol having the history that it does and the crossover appeal that it does between artists and PFPers and just general crypto people, the OGs and the new people, and even
mhm,
just like outside meme lovers. And you can see the narrative with Turbo, right? It's the first AI generated
mhm,
meme coin. I mean, who actually knows? But that's at least the narrative it's got going for it. And then I guess there's an equation with the narrative with the price action. I don't know if that's actually how it is. My gut says that people just want to make money and they see something that
mhm.
other people are making money in, and then they get in. And of course, it snowballs.
Exactly.
But how these things
It's,
actually start is the question of the day, and I'm not sure anybody has the answer to that.
yeah, nobody has the answer, and it's like the funniest thing we've seen in this space so far, as a person who doesn't fully, like, understand technical analysis of stocks, but have been around to sort of, like, understand some things, the
Mhm.
funniest thing is trying to apply a technical like, some form of technical analysis to a shitcoin or a meme coin,
Yeah.
because the nature of something, especially the nature of the image with Pepe and the figure that's like essentially adopted by every culture on the internet, regardless of if it's a good culture or if it's a bad
Yeah.
culture. Pepe was just like, this is our like image figure, our symbolic
Mhm.
figure. It defies all logic. And people are sitting here like trying to make sense of like, why are people dumping 1 ETH, 50 ETH, whatever your price into Pepe? And it's like it, it's not like SHIB was built off of Doge, and everybody liked Doge because wow, Doge, heavy memetics,
And
and
and even
Pepe.
now, whenever Elon Musk tweets about Doge, it spikes, in
It's
price. I mean,
true.
it's not going to 70 cents like it was that one time, like 10
It's
times,
true.
getting a 10 times exponent in value, but it's gaining 30% every time he talks about it just on the basis of, the hope that he's going to talk about it. People are going
Yep.
to invest in it, and then it's going to like start that cycle again.
Yep.
I'm
And
curious, Anubis, how does your perspective on this whole thing change? Not just being like a memer and like a young guy and like an investor in this stuff, but also as a like serious fine artist with like a really consistent and like culturally significant practice.
uh it's like aside from knowing some of the money is like gonna trickle down to the arts once it's sold, just because like the
Hmm.
amount of people I've seen in the art space itself that just have bought Pepe, and I know from our experience, those who are
Hmm.
lasting are sort of smart enough to sell when they need to sell, that I'm not too worried. I think it's if you're not taking it too seriously, it's a really nice break from the doom and gloom of the space, especially
Hmm.
when there's a lot of like buildup happening and people want to say things, but they don't want to like bite the hand that feeds them. Pepe is just like a nice sort of relief.
Yeah.
Um, is it
And,
gonna fix things?
mhm.
Who knows? We're gonna see if it dumps on us.
I mean, it's definitely going to dump on us. It's
Oh
just a
yeah.
matter of
Oh
when
yeah.
and on who. I think that there's something that we often lose in the art world. I
Mhm,
think it's natural in any kind of creative field, but there's a certain like self seriousness about it.
mhm,
Just because like I think creatives all have the same kind of like drive to touch something that's like bigger than them and universal, and you end up with these like quests for beauty. Um, Maybe not aesthetic beauty, but like some kind of like essence of things, right? I think it's common to all like creatives,
mhm,
and I find myself consistently um, I'm drawn to work that is aware of that and also like divergent from it, right? And I think that's
mhm,
why I and so many people love the trash artists and like the spam artists, because there's this conversation that seems to be happening in their works between like it's a degradation of what fine art is, and that itself is kind of appealing, and I don't know, maybe like a rebellious kind of late teenage way. We just posted an essay about John Norlander's Dancing Pants #1, which when I came across it was one of the first pieces that I'd seen in crypto art that was just so overtly like ridiculous and didn't take itself so seriously. And there's something
mhm,
invigorating about that, right? Like that art doesn't have to be serious. It's almost freeing, like to me as an artist, when I like read literature that's really funny. And I don't know if you have the same thing when you see artwork that like really has a sense of humor, but it's really kind of invigorating. And I just think like having cultural moments that are a little bit less serious um, can really like do a
mhm.
body good, like a body public good. You know what I mean?
It's true. That's the whole. That's the whole, thing with, Marcel Duchamp and the fountain and, not to
Mhm.
overuse the most overused example in crypto art history to this day. But
I
it's
mean,
like
it has
it
certain
w yeah, it's
equations.
the non-seriousness of things also in, like, some weird way allows you to appreciate the seriousness of things, and,
Mhm,
um, I've like, for one, it's like, how I think artists who are like, any artists should be as unserious as they are serious in that sense, because like, art is always an expression of emotions, and
mhm.
when it comes to certain memes or even evolution of certain things, making fun of certain things and just having fun is how you poke the bear that you need to poke in a sense,
Yeah.
right? Because
Mhm.
yeah, you can't scream at the wall and, like, they'll be like, "Why are you screaming? Like, turn down your voice." So you just, like,
Yeah.
make fun of them, and
Uh-huh.
then that seems to, like, have historically worked every time. Like,
Mhm,
even before Duchamp, it's like you reject the old systems, make fun of them, give them the middle
mhm.
finger, and they always come running back when you start to get that slow validation. And so, you
Well,
know?
I mean, we do have this attitude, right? And like, especially, as mentioned with like the work of the trash artists and the spam artists and these other like, I don't know, like
Mhm,
comedically minded artists. I'm curious, and something I want to explore more in the coming weeks is
mhm,
like that none of these kind of meme events ever seem to start in crypto art. They all seem to like end here. Like these like highly
mhm.
momentary, like meme bolstered price dynamics, right? Um,
Could you
there was a
elaborate a little bit?
yeah, like there was a ton of open editions that were minted in that kind of like last open edition like meta. But
Mhm,
outside of like the X copy one, which I feel like is its own kind of separate category, the thing that had the most like crazed price dynamics was like the checks, right? Which is
mhm,
not really, I think, in line with what a lot of us were looking for from this open edition dynamic, right? It wasn't really like a
mhm,
super creative product. It was just another shitcoin, right? Or another
mhm,
version, like a JPEG shitcoin, right? And I'm curious, like, why isn't the work of like trash artists like Robness has released, like 10,000 mints or unlimited mints of like the desktop statues limited, or like Untitled XYZ just put out like 1,000 piece like modular architecture
mhm.
collection. It's like, why are these things not attracting the same class of investor, right? Because being a shitcoin is not n- native to any specific kind of asset, right? It's something that like we place upon something socioculturally, right? It's why like
Mhm,
a check can be a shit coin, or a meme coin can be a shit coin, or a
mhm,
cryptocurrency itself, like a big one can be a shit coin. PFP project can be a shit coin, but there's never like art that's shit coins, right? I keep thinking of like the memes, the 6529 ones, which are like used, I guess, to an extent as an investment vehicle, but it's not that kind of craziness that
I
overwhelms this whole kind of world all at once. What were you going to say?
Well, I was gonna say, like, even the memes, I still don't understand somewhat that project because, like, I don't laugh when I look at any of the works. It's
Mm,
like a weird I don't even know if it's like a subversion that they had in mind, where it's like the whole idea was like seize the memes of production, but it
mhm.
seems through making fun of that whole idea, you've done the exact same thing, which is you literally seize the memes for ETH production, And so, like, when it comes to like,
I think it's interesting as like an
mhm,
experiment to like codify like the memes that we
quantify, you
have.
said?
Codify, CODIFY,
Oh,
as in like,
like, as in Call of Duty?
yeah, exactly. As in like make it like, I mean, to an extent, like make it super name brand and like money generative.
Mhm,
The but I guess like it like solidifies the meaning of those things, right? By having
mhm,
all of these memes that are talking about the GM, you know, meme, tweet, whatever we want to call it,
mhm,
it's like solidifying A, our awareness of it, and B,
mhm,
its like presence in this culture beyond like a momentary blip, right? So I think that there's
mhm,
an interesting experiment there if we take all of these disparate ideas that might be momentary and also might be like Twitter,
mhm,
sourced, and we like put them into these artworks and these different styles and attach like big name artists to them, that maybe it'll give them a longer life. At least as an artistic experiment, I'm here for it. Like I love an opportunity to collect people's works that I wouldn't
mhm,
otherwise have a chance to experience. And I love the fact that you can have like huge name artists in a collection next to others who don't quite have the same like reach. So
yeah, yeah, no,
all that is to say though is like, why doesn't I mean, maybe just because of the sheer lack of like actual assets to invest in. That's why something like that hasn't gotten the cultural capital. Not the
Ah,
lack of cultural capital, but the lack of like insane kind of investment. But like an art blocks, like a 10,000 art blocks project or an open edition, I just think it's odd that we haven't really seen that come out of crypto art, which I guess is good in one way because it's not taking capital out of crypto art and putting it in the hands of
mhm.
investors the other way around. But it just seems unlikely, if that makes sense.
Yeah, well, I think it's tied to, like, just the nature of how the crypto art and even trash art utilize aesthetics and
Hmm.
memetics in comparison to just, like, general memes. Because if you tie something to just, like, any simple meme, memes generally were created to be, like, understandable and liked by everybody, where even trash art in itself is an abrasive form against
Oh, you think so?
more.
I feel like memes
I
are kind of like an in group, honestly. Like the
it
Pepe meme itself is like you have to
well
understand it to get it.
it really depends, cause like, Pepe is such a large figure that, like, my introduction into Pepe was through Feels Good Man on Twitch, where it was just, like, when your
Yeah.
streamer does something cool on Twitch in this video
Hmm.
game, like, got a pentakill on League, you're like, "Feels good, man, spam the frog emoji," and so, like, there's a whole culture that got introduced to Pepe just through, like, Twitch and video games, and they just understand that as, like, their video game self-association, and
Hmm.
then there's a whole crypto culture that just deals with like rich Pepe and gentleman Pepe. And so it's like the nuances of like how Pepe is known within the subcultures will be different. But the overall effect is this like smiling frog figure is so easily digestible by everyone in
Hmm.
comparison to like a 64-gallon toter, which is in itself, it's like it is meant to be abrasive, right? Because 60-gallon toter is like, I will address these like copyright issues, and I'm gonna address the issues of, like, beautiful depiction within art with, like, essentially a dumpster grab from, like, Home Depot or whatever, right?
Hmm.
And that in
Yeah.
itself, like, even somebody who gets it, the majority of people will look at that, and if they have, like, a preconceived notion on, like, what beautiful art is supposed to be, they'll
Hmm.
immediately have some form of rejection to the work. You have to, like, talk to somebody and be like, "This is what trash art is about." The same
Sure.
way, like, grandma will look at the Fountain by Duchamp and be like, "I don't understand this, but me and you can understand it because 'cause we've
Hmm.
studied it," you know?
Yeah. I mean, memification and like the whole meme ecosystem is itself like a really burgeoning and like advanced and complex field of study. I
Mhm,
encourage everyone listening to this to check out Joshua Citarella of Do Not Research. He's done like he has like college level courses on like the creation of memes and the proliferation of memes. It's like a science, right? And it's an important science.
mhm,
And I just think like I do want to just kind of bring up that point though of like Pepe being at once super accessible because there's another side of it, which is that yes, it's accessible on a surface level, but what I think really gets people's goats and what really like ingratiates themselves with any given meme is all of the history behind it that they are either aware of consciously or tacitly aware of. And I
mhm,
think what we see in these memes is like they're so self-referential. I mean, I remember somebody showing me a TikTok. It was like one of the first TikToks I'd ever seen, but it was like a level 2 meme, right? It was a meme that referenced how that meme itself was being generated and also called back to another meme. It's like a mixing
mhm,
of memes. And like there really is this kind of like advanced interplay. Like I don't think like a shitcoin like Pepe is itself like a late stage meme, right? Because it's you can't have something like this occur without there being a kind of in group of people who are attracted to that symbol, right? It's one thing to understand the symbol in like an aesthetic sense, like, oh, that's a funny frog. I like that frog. And it's another
mhm,
thing, I think, to understand that symbol as in like, how does this affect my daily life? How does this symbol move within the communities that I move with? How long have I been aware of this? Like, I don't know. I have a Pepe meme saved on my computer from like 2011,
mhm,
maybe earlier. And it's like, okay, now that's 12 years of my life that I've been aware of this figure, right?
mhm.
In some way, conscious or unconscious, that's going to make me turn to it with a certain softness.
Of
You know what I
course,
mean?
of course. It's like if like imagine if somebody came with like Fight Club coin or whatever, like something that's just like so known to culture
Hmm.
that even you, it's like you know that it's like this is just a meme. I can't possibly do this, but because it's so ingrained in culture, the mimetic part takes over against all the logic and goes, but like, like, hey,
Well,
it's
I'm
that
kind of
thing you
surprised
like.
like we don't have shit coins that are more referential of like non crypto culture. because I think that like the memification that was happening once it was like an actual, quasi art form on Twitter.
Mhm,
Like I think about like movies like the Judd Apatow movies or like Step Brothers, right?
mhm.
Which perhaps you've seen, perhaps you haven't seen. But they're
I've seen Step
very,
Brothers, yeah.
yeah, they're like super quotable. And then the quote, I mean, how this would appear in the past is people would see it in theaters, it wouldn't do super well. Everyone would talk about it to their friends, and it would become this
Mhm,
like cult classic, right? I mean, we see that throughout history with like the Big Lebowski and the Evil Dead movies, and like that was essentially a kind of proto memification of that thing, right? It was like, I don't know, glomming onto some like in-group knowledge and wanting to be part of that in-group. And like, I don't
yeah.
know, am I totally up the wrong creek here?
No, you're not. Just give me 1 second. My cat randomly found out that I'm like on a call and decided to step on the one thing it's not supposed to step on, which is my oil paint. It's right there. Give me 1 moment.
Yeah. Well, Anubis obviously doesn't know that the first rule of radio is no dead air, so I'm just going to talk blindly about memes. And I should note that as we go on here, I don't ever invest in any of these shit coins or meme coins myself because I'm terrified.
Mhm.
Um, Perhaps it is just me, but I don't have any confidence in my own ability to like navigate these
Uh,
markets. And I somewhat envy the like confidence of people to not only glom onto like the symbology, but also understand like be living so deeply within the like hair trigger nature of these
mhm.
like hyper current crypto events. Um, I don't know.
Dude.
I remember Earth Sample, your colleague in making it 24/7 and good friend to us
Yeah.
both. He was mentioning that I, I I think he told me we were talking about this is just when Pepe was starting,
Mhm,
and I said, "Man, I'm on Twitter 24/7, and I have no idea whenever this stuff is coming out." And he said, "Well, the last people to hear about it is Twitter,
mhm,
right? It comes out of these like group chats and these
mhm.
like tiny interpersonal like relationship areas." And it was I think a little bit stultifying to learn that like, or I guess to realize that I have now, whether because of actual age or just sheer attention, having like
Mhm.
aged out of where this information is being shared and communicated. um I don't know, do you know what I'm talking about?
It's not more about, like, aged out of it really because you'll be surprised by some of, like, how old some of these dudes are who launch these coins. It's just more of, like,
No, but as a state of mind, like not actual age, but
uh
like, chasing the
mhm.
newest technology within
Oh,
which
oh.
all of these like conversations will proliferate, right? Not being in the right telegrams or the right WhatsApps or the right Discord channels. Um, and hearing about all this stuff too late because that's when the influencers have now gotten in.
I mean, yeah, I guess it's I don't like, the I guess I'd be like you because I also don't pursue these things. I don't think any like, pursuing it it's like the whitelist grind that we all used to be we all
Mm,
used to hear about, right? Where it's
sure.
like everybody wants to get in, you have to be present of 24/7s because one coin will launch at midnight, one coin will launch at whatever.
Hmm.
And the safety aspect of it, like, gets bigger the deeper you go, because like, a group chat, it gets created to give you the illusion that you're buying early to dump on somebody when in reality, you're the one that's gonna get dumped on. And
Yeah,
so it's just there are weird dynamics for it. And it's just, like again, you'll if you look at some of these shit coins that get launched and then dumped, it's a lot of the early and the biggest gains that happen will always happen before anybody even hears about the coin. Friends just tell
sure.
friends, and so I wouldn't chase it too much because how it depends on the nature of the shit coin itself. You can still have an opportunity now.
Hmm.
Um,
I guess the
I've
question is, do
seen.
we want the
Mhm,
opportunity, right? Like, do we want this to keep going? Because the way I see it is there's really like two paths for this.
mhm,
Um, I think one is like the less like exaggerated path forward, which is that this is a momentary capital generating event that will kind of do what everything has done in the last,
mhm,
year and a half of this, bear market, which is it'll get people really excited. It'll get them back on Twitter. It'll get some more money in some people's pockets. That'll kind of have some. It'll splash forward down the well until it eventually lands in the hands of crypto artists, and hopefully that winds up invigorating them, allowing them to stay in the space longer, allowing them the freedom to make some
mhm,
really cool art. Um, I suppose I don't know if
So
it's
do we?
deleterious or more just kind of, you know, like hyper version of
Mhm,
this, is that this is kind of the beginning of a new meta that's really dangerous. The way that the beginning of like the PFP meta was like really dangerous, and not dangerous to anyone individually, but just dangerous in terms of its like unpredictability, right? And maybe
oh, of
that
course.
is good, maybe that's bad. Um,
I
but I mean, I think that there's, like we were talking about at the beginning, there's such a hunger for activity, right? And
mhm,
for excitement and for, I don't know, good, not just good news, but like interesting news, right? Um, it's just there's just a when there's just such a baseline, and
mhm,
everything is kind of conforming to your expectations in this like social sphere. I think it can get very monotonous, not just in terms of what you're actually seeing, but also in terms of what you're creating. Right? You're not reacting to new stimuli; you're reacting to the same stimuli. And I know, like, I
mhm,
work best when there's some kind of you know jolt, right? Some lightning
mhm.
bolt, some cold weather, to get
Just
things
like you
going.
want, yeah. I mean, is it should it be allowed? It's that I don't know myself because it's like it's sort of this thing. Like if some, I would call it like degenerate gambling, if you will,
Mhm.
because it really is. It's essentially like as if you're playing like a poker game, but the game is we
Yeah.
can sit at the table just for the perfect amount of time and then get the fuck out before the house takes over
Yeah, and as
completely.
Colborn
You
always
know?
says, like, that's part of the, you know, it's in the blood of this whole movement to at least touch the like degenerate gambling aspect.
Yeah.
Um, I wonder if at some point it comes back to like bite itself, or if you know, being forged in the flame, it can somehow, like, crypto art itself somehow like will consistently benefit from these activities. I mean, if nothing else, it is inspiring probably more people who are less connected with crypto art to tell their friends to
Mhm.
invest in this or that, shitcoin to try and make a few bucks. And again, it will move out of the hands of people who know less about it, for better and for worse, even if it means that these people are going to then be turned off of crypto for the foreseeable future because they accidentally put $10,000 into some coin that was like, I don't know,
The
fucking like
juggies.
piss coin or something like that. And then that $10,000 doesn't just disappear, it goes downstream somewhere, and hopefully it ends up here.
Hopefully.
Um,
I mean,
yeah,
it's I think it's kind of funny and it's kind of nice, I guess poetic, let's call it, that like the artists in this space are like doing this are like getting a little bit into like some form of degenerate gambling because if you ever meet an artist, a lot of there's a lot of degeneracy in the art world in general. Artists are the ones that will do drugs in university all the time to create and stuff. And so it makes sense that a part of us is gravitated to that essentially the insane dopamine releases that come with like Bitcoin went up 1000%. I made money, and it just what
if there's
happened
one,
is
yeah,
Hmm. No, I was just gonna say
no,
quickly, it's like what happened is like you now have access to a poker table that for like $40 at the perfect moment can net you insane amounts of wealth, but it's just you have to deal with all like the mental stress and the mental like agility and gymnastics that you're gonna have to do dealing with just being exposed to all of this like movement, especially as an artist, because we're not also like financially as savvy as a bunch of the crypto bros.
fair enough. That seems like a good place to end it. Anubis, I appreciate your insight on this conversation as a shitcoiner, as an artist. Um, all I can say is, as this weird meme coin meta continues to evolve, I wish you good fortune.
Thank you, kind sir. I
And be
appreciate it.
careful. And
Yes.
thanks everybody for listening. And please don't get wrecked, or you know, don't get wrecked too hard. We need you, and
Yeah,
we
don't
love
get
you.
wrecked to her. And if shit's going down, just take that shit, sell it, and bring it to art. We'll take care of you in the art world over here.
Yeah, man. Invest
Have
in
a good
art;
one,
it'll never
everybody.
bite you back.